To make this bracelet today, we're going to need some chain, and I have one cut at 4 1/8 inches. I have one at a 1/2 inch, and then I have 4 that are 3 1/2 inches. That will make our bracelet a 7-inch bracelet. You can make them shorter or longer, whatever you need to do. I have 15 pieces of 22 gauge wire that I have cut in 3-inch lengths. Now, you can get away with cutting these shorter. I just need that extra wire to hold on to when I'm wire wrapping. We need a pendant of some sort. I saw this one in my Etsy supply shop. But you can use any pendant that has a place for us to put something at the top and the bottom. You can also use a connector. I have a couple of jump rings and a clasp. We will need 15 6mm beads. These are rondelle, but they don't have to be. It's just what I had. I have a couple of chain nose pliers, a wire cutter, and a round nose plier. Okay. I'm going to start this bracelet by making a wrapped loop. And you can make these loops any size you want. So there we are. And let's open that loop up. And we're going to take our 4 1/8 inch chain, or whatever size it is that you need, and we're going to place both ends onto this wire and into the loop. And this is going to act as the ring part of our bracelet. So let's go ahead and close this back up. Okay, let's hold on to it and wrap it. And I'm only going to wrap mine a couple of times. You can certainly wrap yours as many times as you want. Okay, there we are. And let's cut off this excess. Now let's get one of our beads. Place that on our wire. And we're just going to make another wrap loop in the opposite direction of this one. So this time we're going to make our loop this way, sitting the pliers right down on that bead. Okay, let's open this up and place the bottom section of our pendant onto this loop. And let's close it back up. And let's go ahead and wrap it. Just a tiny bit of space here, so I'm going to hold on to it with my round nose pliers since they're thinner. And now we're going to wrap from our loop to our bead, just closing up that open space there. Alright, and let's go ahead and cut the excess off. And now that I have both ends of this bead wrapped, I'm going to go ahead and squeeze down these sections where we cut the wire, so that they don't catch on anything. sorry, working out of the camera. I'm always working out of the camera. I do apologize. Okay. Let's get another piece of our wire. And we're going to make another wrapped loop. Now you could use bail making pliers or mark these round nose pliers if you want all of your loops to be the same. Let's open that back up and place it onto the top section of our pendant. And close that back up. Once again, we're dealing with not much room, so I'm going to use my round nose pliers. And I'm going to wrap that wire. Okay, let's cut off this excess. Now let's get another one of our beads. And now we're going to wrap the opposite way of this loop. Placing our pliers right down on top of that bead. And go ahead and make the loop. Okay, let's open that up. And we're going to place this teeny tiny piece of 1/2 inch chain onto this wire and into this loop. And let's close that loop back up. And wrap. Did my chain just come out? No, it didn't. Okay. Okay, let's just hold on to the loop. And go ahead and wrap. And you see I do have a lot of excess wire left when I'm wrapping these loops. So like I say, you could make your wires shorter if you are able to wrap them with just a small section of wire left. Unfortunately, I'm not that talented, so I make mine pretty long. Here we are. Let's cut off this excess. And let's go ahead and squeeze down these ends. Just tuck them in with the rest of the work. Alright, that's what we have so far. Now we're going to make another wrapped loop. And let's open that up. And place our teeny tiny chain in there. And close that up. And let's wrap it. And let's cut off that excess. Let's get a bead. place that on our wire. And let's go ahead and make another wrapped loop. This time I'm going to make the loop just slightly bigger. So I'm going to go a little bit further down on my pliers. Doesn't have to be huge, but slightly bigger is helpful. So let's open this back up. And now we're going to place all of our 3.5 inch chains into this loop, or whatever size you decided is right for you. Last one. Okay, let's close this up. Okay, now let's wrap this. Just closing that gap down to the bead. And let's cut off the excess. And squeeze those ends down. It's a really long tail and not much space, so I'm going to cut that a little bit shorter. Okay. Now let's separate these chains. So that's the first one and the second one. Okay, let's make another wrapped loop. And open that up. And we're going to separate these two chains because we're going to work in the center of them. First, let's make sure we have the right one. Yes. So we're going to work between these two chains. So let's go ahead and get one of them out of our way. This is our very first chain. And let's attach this loop right in that section. Go ahead and close it up. Okay. And let's wrap this. And cut that excess. Now let's place a bead on this piece of wire. Opposite direction. Okay, this time we're just going to wrap it. Goodness, can't hold on to it. There we are. And cut off this excess. And let's work on those ends. There we are. And on the other side. Okay. Now let's make another wrapped loop. And place it on the component we just made. Squeeze that. And I think I'm going to hold it with my round nose. And let's go ahead and wrap that loop. Cut this excess. And we're going to add a bead. And make another loop. And let's wrap that loop up. There we are. And let's trim off this excess. And squeeze in these tails. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to continue to make these wrapped components with these beads on it, and we're going to continue to add them just like I did there until we come close to the same length as our 3.5 inch piece wire. Now if you need to go a bit longer, that's okay. Try not to go shorter than your chain because that dictates the size of our bracelet. So a little over, okay, a little under, not so much. And then you're simply going to separate the two chains on the opposite side and do the exact same thing we did with this. So once we get all these done, I'll come back. Okay, I've finished beading each side of my bracelet, and I've added a jump ring to this side. Now I ended up having to add one more crystal to each side to make it long enough. So keep in mind that you might need more than 15 because I used 17 crystals and 17 pieces of wire. So now we're just going to add a jump ring to the side of our bracelet, keeping everything in order. So chain and then the beaded section, and then the chain, and our clasp. And let's go ahead and close up our jump ring. And we're all done. So we wear this bracelet by placing our finger through this little loop that we made at the very beginning when we started the bracelet. And then, of course, you would attach your bracelet part. So there you are. Now, I like to mix my metals. So, on this bracelet, I have antique brass, silver, and copper. You could make your metals all the same, if that's what you prefer. Now, I made another one earlier using a connector. So I had a ring at the bottom and two at the top. So I chained the two side pieces, and then on this bracelet I used 3 chains. Now you could just use 1 chain and be done with it. You don't have to add a beaded section, you don't have to add more chains. I just like the look of it. And once again, this is mixed metals. This is copper and what they call new gold, which is a raw brass, and also antique brass and an antique brass clasp. But that's what it looks like if you use a connector, or what it can look like, depending on what beads you use. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I do hope you will make some of these.